The constant search for wisdom is the path least traveled, but the most rewarding in our lives. Some things are like seeds, we plant them in silence, away from prying eyes, so they can grow and flourish without interference. This is where the wisdom of the Stoics comes in. They teach us to protect and cultivate within ourselves, without rushing to show the world. The great Stoic thinkers of history knew that not everything should be shared. They valued their achievements and secret lessons, as they understood that by revealing too much the true essence of things, it could be lost. For them, every joy and sadness, every lesson and challenge, are pieces of the story we compose. If we share everything without considering it, we may stop living deeply. Just as a flower does not grow if it is touched constantly, our growth also needs privacy, a space of our own where we observe our mistakes and victories, deciding how we want to move forward in the best way. So when we don't share something, it's not to hide it, but to protect it. True growth comes from balancing what we show and what we keep to ourselves. Now that you understand the problem, it's time to revolutionize your approach by learning the solution. Rule number 1, don't talk about your accomplishments. Imagine diving into the deep, dark waters of your own soul. For the Stoics, the search for wisdom and virtue resembled this profound journey. They believed that true satisfaction lay not in displaying external triumphs, but rather in introspection and continuous evolution. Every challenge, every fight, was not fought in public arenas, but in the silent landscapes of the spirit. When discussing their victories, they offered us a deep reflection on ego and vanity, which, when fed, can become barriers that separate us from true virtue. Given that you've made it this far, I'd like to ask for a like and, if possible, your comment. This is really important because this way YouTube understands and strengthens our learning channel. Now, let's continue. Your obsession with external recognition, they said, ties us to chains of pride, imprisoning us full of disappointments. True greatness, they believed, lay in living with integrity, dedicating oneself to the collective. They left us with the legacy that humility, sincerity, and the incessant search for wisdom were the true pillars of a life worth living. 2. Do not talk about the unsurmounted challenges along the Stoic path toward wisdom and virtue. Each step was filled with meaning. The detours and obstacles were not simple barriers, they carved the soul, shaped the character, and taught about true nature of greatness. It was not the visible triumph that mattered, but the often invisible internal battles that determined a person's true inner strength. But if these challenges were so valuable, why did the Stoics advise against talking about unresolved challenges? The answer lies in his insightful perception of human nature. They believed that ego and pride could cloud our vision, making us blind to true virtue. The incessant search for external recognition and praise could be a veil that hides our true potential. The Stoics did not value achievements that could easily be displayed as trophies. They sought true glory in acts that elevated humanity, acts rooted in values such as justice, generosity, and wisdom. True wealth for them was not in the shine of gold, but in the radiance of a morally upright character and a serene soul. The philosophy of loving destiny was fundamental to this understanding. The Stoics did not despair in the face of adversity. On the contrary, they balanced the taste of victory and defeat with equanimity, aware that the tapestry of life is woven with threads of circumstances often beyond our control. 3. Don't talk about your good deeds. Imagine a candle silently illuminating a dark room. Its light is soft, unobtrusive, but it warms and illuminates everything around it. Kindness, for the Stoics, was very similar to this flame. They believed that true generosity did not need to be proclaimed in public squares or shouted from mountaintops. It should, in essence, be a genuine and subtle gesture, made out of the simple desire to do good without expecting praise in return. Why might this perspective seem strange in today's culture of self-promotion? For a profound reason. The Stoics recognized the danger of turning goodness into a spectacle. After all, if we boast about every selfless act, we may inadvertently seek the fleeting warmth of applause. Keeping our good deeds behind the cloak of anonymity provides us with a sacred moment of reflection and pause, a moment of intimate connection with ourselves, where we can question whether our actions were genuine or motivated by other interests. This secret self-examination becomes a catalyst for personal improvement. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the belief that true goodness does not seek the spotlight, it manifests itself in acts of silent compassion and authenticity. This timeless wisdom embraces us with its essence and reminds us of a fundamental truth: often, the greatest act of kindness is one that is given without expecting anything in return. 4. Don't talk about your resentment. Have you ever felt trapped in a web of emotions where every strand is a bitter memory, a grudge that refuses to go away? The timeless wisdom of Stoicism invites us to reflect deeply on the weight invisibility of resentment. For these ancient philosophers, harboring resentment was like an anchor that prevented the spirit from sailing freely through the season of life. But what if we could choose a path less traveled, where forgiveness and understanding were our faithful companions? Behind this historical perspective, we find an unwavering focus on virtue and self-control. Ask yourself, have you ever carried a burden on your shoulders for a long time? Did you feel tired, exhausted and resentful? This burden is an invisible chain that binds us, limiting our freedom and inner peace. It's fascinating to realize that resentment often arises from misunderstanding and can trap you in a cycle of bitterness. Stoics teach to seek the origins of others' actions to understand before judging. Forgiveness, then, is not just an altruistic gesture, but an act of profound wisdom that unlocks the mysteries of the human soul and frees us from the chains of negativity. Because anger and resentment are silent poisons, and more than when fed, they consume our tranquility and well-being. On the other hand, by choosing the path of forgiveness and understanding, we find an oasis of serenity and peace. Thus, guided by Stoic wisdom, we are reminded of a universal truth: forgiveness is the key to our own freedom. It is a lighthouse that guides us through emotional storms and offers us refuge in the harbor of serenity. By embracing this lesson, we discover that sometimes the greatest strength lies in letting go, in freeing ourselves from the chains of the past, and sailing toward a horizon of understanding and peace. 5. Don't talk about your deepest dreams. Imagine for a moment a rare and delicate seed in the palm of your hand. It represents your most intimate dreams, your most fervent aspirations. How would you protect that seed from the strong wind and storms that could stop it from germinating? The Stoics, with their profound wisdom, provide an answer. They saw our goals and dreams as these precious seeds destined to be planted in the fertile depths of our souls, far from the storms of other people's opinions and criticisms. After all, who has never felt that the flame of a dream goes out prematurely when exposed to the cold of skepticism or the heat of ridicule? Within Stoic philosophy, self-sufficiency is celebrated as a priceless jewel. True wisdom, true deed, is not a chalice to be displayed, but an inner well from which one can always draw. There's no point in seeking fleeting external approval when we can find richness and purpose in the recesses of our own minds. Perhaps the Stoics' quietest and yet most eloquent virtue is their ability to recognize the subtlety of the line between healthy ambition and pride. Choosing silence about our great goals was not an act of timidity, but a deliberate choice to walk with humility, avoiding the pride that sometimes blinds us. Finally, the Stoic tradition presents us with a rich perspective on the value of secrecy. It teaches us that protecting our goals is more than a strategy, it is a way to strengthen our being, to honor our self-sufficiency and to walk with humility in a world where external validation seems to be the currency. 6. Don't talk about your next moves. Imagine a chess master moving his pieces in silence while his opponents try to decipher his next moves. This is the way of the Stoics. They understood that by revealing every move in their lives, they could be subjected to the capricious winds of judgment, often charged with criticism, envy, and even malicious intent. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the virtue of self-sufficiency. Why depend on the ephemeral applause of an audience when true strength lies in the inner theater of mind? By keeping their life strategies to themselves, the Stoics were not only hiding their plans, but strengthening their inner core of confidence, independent of the opinions flowing around them. This leads us to humility, a subtle but profound quality that the Stoics fervently defended. Revealing grandiose strategies could easily be interpreted as a cry of arrogance, a triumphant announcement of superiority. By choosing discretion, they found a balance between ambition and humility, ensuring that their steps were firm but not presumptuous. Thus, the Stoic tradition presents us with a rich perspective on the value of secrecy, teaching us that protecting our goals is not just a strategy, but a way of strengthening our being, honoring our self-sufficiency and walking with humility in a world where external validation seems to be the currency. 7. Don't talk about your doubts and uncertainties. Imagine yourself in a vast forest where every tree represents a doubt and every shadow an uncertainty. Instead of shouting your hesitations to the world, choose silent introspection, seeking answers within your own soul. This is the path of the Stoics. At the core of Stoic philosophy, it is recognized that trust is not a flag waved before the world, but an internal beacon that guides our path. Constantly revealing our doubts to the world is like exposing a lighthouse to torrential rain, and it can go out silently. We find the necessary solidity not to be influenced by the opinions and judgments of others. Modesty, in turn, is not just an external virtue, but a shield that protects the spirit. Therefore, carrying all the uncertainties can strip the soul of its dignity. Therefore, always choose when and with whom to share your vulnerabilities. While many seek answers in the clamor of the outside world, understand the importance of silence and introspection. Often the answers to the deepest questions resonate in the silent chambers of the heart and mind. In short, Stoic wisdom whispers valuable advice amid the storms of doubt. There is no need to shout your uncertainties to the world. By embracing silence, modesty, and introspection, we find a safe route through the forest of uncertainty. Guided by the inner beacon of our trust and understanding, we discover that sometimes the greatest strength lies in letting go, releasing ourselves from the chains of the past, and sailing toward a horizon of understanding and peace. 8. Don't talk over others. Criticizing others is like throwing stones into a still lake, creating ripples that disturb the serenity of the water. The Stoics understood that participating in judgment and criticism was a distraction from your own inner mirror, wasting energy precious in matters beyond his sphere of influence. Instead of pointing fingers, the Stoics chose to extend a hand. They guided themselves with empathy and compassion, recognizing that each person is a universe full of internal and external battles, joys and sadness, victories and defeats. To criticize another person would be to fail to recognize the rich complexity of the human condition. They also understood that criticism, instead of building bridges, often built walls. In their search for tranquility and harmony, they understood that harsh words and hasty judgments did not lead to peace, but rather to discord and separation. Stoic wisdom sends us a clear and timeless message: we must be guardians of our words and thoughts. 9. Don't talk about your lonely moments. Strength lies in stillness. Loneliness should not be seen as a void to be filled, but as a sanctuary where the mind can dance freely, away from the chains of other people's opinions. Don't talk about unlearned lessons. Mistakes are not signs of weakness, but maps to self-discovery. By embracing mistakes not as an indication of weakness but as a guide to self-development, the Stoics turned them into foundations for growth. Stoic wisdom teaches us that true power often lies in what we keep secret, not because we are being evasive, but because we recognize the importance of nurturing our dreams in a safe environment. Silence, for the Stoics, is not empty, it is full of possibilities and hope, being the fertile soil where our dreams can thrive. True magic lies not in what we declare to the world, but in what we silently achieve in the recesses of our determination. Thank you for watching. I wanted to ask if you enjoyed today's lesson. Did this content add value to your understanding? If so, I invite you to consider leaving a like. Your support is essential for us to continue sharing knowledge and inspiration with everyone. If you have content suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comments. We value your contribution and it guides us in our mission to provide increasingly enriching and impactful content. Remember that personal development is a journey we are all on together. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and strive to become the best version of yourself.